happening, everybody? My name is Beth, and welcome back to Every Day is Spooktober. Today, we have another review. As you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we're doing some classic horror reviews today. So, shocker or not, I've never seen any of the Amityville horror films. Real big shock as someone who loves horror films and haunted house films. I have yet to see any of these. The film that I'm reviewing today is the Amityville Horror 2005 with Ryan Reynolds, Chloe Grace Moretz, etc., etc. Quite a well-known cast for this one. So yeah, I'm just going to give my overall thoughts. I watched this today, so it's very fresh. I have a lot of thoughts. I've done a bit of research and I've looked at other people's reviews. So I'm just going to get straight into it and I'll let you know what I think. With this franchise, it's weird to me that I've never seen them because they are so popular and this is based on true events, like whatever. And it was funny because when I first started watching this film today, I saw like the framing of the windows and it showed like the flashback of like the guy who kills his family because the voices in the house told him to do it. And I was like, I've seen this before. I was like, wait. I was like, I've seen it. And then it clicked and I was like, this is what we see at the opening of The Conjuring 2. We see Lorraine reenacting like killing the family, and they've got like the whole window setup of the house. For those of you who may not know, Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are obviously featured in the Conjuring films, the Amityville case was theirs. Like they solved, well, they were a part of that case. They were a part of the real Amityville haunting, which is like really, really cool. And it just surprises me that I've never actually like try to watch it. I know it's probably like the worst one to start with because you obviously when you watch a franchise you want to start with the original. I bought the 2005 one thinking I'm going to give it a go because maybe it's not for me, you know, whatever it is. And for me, as much as I really appreciate, you know, old horror or horror that sort of started a genre or, you know what I mean, had so much inspiration for current horror films, I wanted to just start with something not recent because 2005 was a while ago, but just do something that wasn't super, super old just to kind of get a feel for it, as you do find that modern horror films are more scarier nowadays. So yeah, I kind of wanted to just go for something that was a bit more recent. So I thought I'll give this one a go. I also thought it was interesting that Ryan Reynolds was in a horror film because that's not his vibe at all. Obviously, he's known as a comedic actor, rom-coms, like, that's the type of film he does. So I was quite intrigued to see him in a horror. So yeah, just my overall thoughts of this film. Let's just say it didn't scare me at all. So, unfortunately, if you're looking for a horror film this spooky season, unfortunately this isn't it. I was never scared. I was never grossed out, disturbed, on the edge of my seat for any of this, if I'm quite honest with you. Okay, I watched it during the day, but like at the same time, it did nothing for me, unfortunately. There definitely had potential. There was potential scares. There was a lot going on that I thought was interesting, but it just didn't do it for me. There were so many things about this film. There was so much going on that it was just so chaotic. And I remember reading some reviews online after I watched it, and they were saying how they thought the film was way too just jam-packed, and I completely agree. If I'm quite honest with you, this is a basic story. Everyone knows that Amityville is a haunted house film. It's about a family or a couple, whoever, move into a new house. The house is haunted. Weird things happen. Doors start slamming. Pots are falling all over the place. That's what a haunted house film is, and everyone knows that. And then obviously whatever's in the house is trying to kill them, is trying to possess them, whatever it may be. But with this, there was like so many like creatures and demons and ghosts and stuff, and I was like, what is the purpose of this? They should have cut these like demons and ghosts down to a minimum, and they should have just been one or two, because my thought was that the focus was the little girl that got shot in the house before the new family moved in. Obviously we see a lot of her, and she's got a bullet wound in her head, like she's dead. And we have Chloe Grace Moretz's character that sees her all the time, and the sort of storyline there is sort of embedded throughout the entire film. But then there's like random faces that pop up and weird creatures, and I'm like, who are these people? What relevance does this have to the story? And it just makes it a bit too much, and it's like, it definitely loses you. I think like halfway through it started to lose me a bit, because I thought, what is our focus here? Like, make the focus this little girl, or make the focus this one demon or this one creature. I'm aware of the backstory of like there being multiple deaths in the house even before the family was killed. They were trying to do way too much. Like, I also think there was too many characters. Like, we couldn't just focus on the fact that Ryan was getting, sick being at the house, and he was obviously getting taken over, possessed by what was living in the house and wanting to kill his whole family. There should have been more focus on that, but I think they had too many kids. I think introducing the babysitter didn't add anything to the story, because I'm like, what relevance does she have? Okay, she used to babysit for them before, but who cares? I think she didn't need to be in it. And I also thought the way they introduced her, they're like she's trying to come off as this like young, like sexy girl. Like, who fucking cares? Like, this is a horror film, like, just irrelevant. There was so much going on that it just took away from the focus of the film. So when the film ended, I was a bit like, what was the story? And coming from someone who has never seen any of the others, like, I don't, is that what the story is? Is that exactly what happens in the original? Is that what actually happened, in real life when these people were getting haunted in the house? Like, what actually happened? And I also just mention, why the hell did nobody die in this? As in, like, you introduce a new family, they're living in the house, nobody died. What's that about? I'm sorry, but you cannot have a horror film and nobody die in it. Like, you have to have it. And I think because nobody died too, as dark as it is, you just sometimes need it. And like I was saying, I think, because nobody died, it was like, where's the threat? No one's getting like severely injured or like hurt, or no one's died or been killed off. Like, and then, even when the priest comes to the house, he like gets attacked by flies. I didn't realize flies were so deadly that they, like, I don't know, like, there was no threat in the film. There was no like real gore or horror or death or anything to make you scared for these people, because it was like, okay, yeah, Ryan's going nutty, but like, I don't know, like, what is he actually doing? Like, it was very underdeveloped, and there was a lot more of the story that needed to be developed and just focused on one thing. And I think that's why I've got so many thoughts and feelings about it, because I'm like, where was this going? Was it going this way? Was it going this way? I don't really know. I do sort of wish I started with the 1979 original. I probably should have, because I have heard that one is better. It's a bit more simplistic, and there's not like loads of things going on like it does in this one. So yeah, I don't know. Don't get me wrong, it was like a fun watch. Like, you can just throw it on and like, it's fine. It's not scary at all, in my opinion. And I think some people with, maybe really low tolerances for horror, I think that even they could probably handle this, because it really was not bad. I think the only thing that got me is when the babysitter is locked in the closet and she sees the little girl that's died in the house, and she's got a bullet wound in her head, and she like puts the babysitter's finger through her bullet hole in her head. That was like the worst thing I think I saw. It was a bit cringy. It was a bit like, ugh, but yeah, it was nothing crazy. I should know better. I should always start with the original, because remakes aren't always better, but sometimes they are. So yeah, that's just like my overall thoughts on it, you know. I mean, I thought the acting was fine. Obviously the storyline is very similar to the original, but they tried to modify it, and I just don't think it worked at all. I believe Michael Bay was involved in this as well, and not a huge fan of his work. So it was interesting to see him on this type of film, but I don't think it worked what he wanted or was trying to do. And as well as the other sort of directors and creators of this. Let me know if there's any of them that are really good or all quite scary or whatever, because I am intrigued to kind of know more about the franchise, and if I should try and keep watching it and invest my time in it. But now I've seen it, it's weird. I'm just sort of like, so that was what the hype was about. Not as it wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be, if I'm honest. So if I had to give this a rating, probably give this a 4.5 out of 10, which is really disappointing and is really low. Unfortunately, it wasn't scary enough for me. The story lacked and had way too much going on. Just yeah, I think it could have been better. You know, something I will say is a positive. There was loads of intertextual references in this film. Like, for example, what's going on with like the red balloon near the boathouse. I thought Pennywise was living in there and was gonna pop out. Gave me like It vibes, references to that. You know, like the whole thing, like a child has an imaginary friend, that's very sort of cliche, it's very common. The dog dying, I can tell that a lot of films now have taken inspiration from Amityville, because there was a lot of similarities that I noticed in films nowadays. And yeah, so I mean, I thought that was quite interesting, and I was spotting them throughout, and there was so many more. Yeah, that's just my overall thoughts and review on that. I'm sorry that this wasn't spooky or a spooky review or something that was like really good for Halloween. Unfortunately, I don't recommend this, and I don't recommend watching or rewatching this for Halloween, because it doesn't give the spooky or the fall, or just it doesn't give October at all. So that, yeah, unfortunately this wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. That's just my overall thoughts on it. They tried, but they've tried many a times, and maybe it was just, when you make so many films, when you make so many sequels and remakes, the idea starts to lose its touch, and I think maybe that's just what has happened with this franchise. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will promise you that I will try and do some more Halloween spooky films, because this wasn't it. I'll see you on the next one.